I get asked a lot, help me, I can't tell the difference. I always feel wet. So that is why we're going to just chat about when it can get a little bit confusing, when you're feeling always wet, and a few reasons why. So the first thing we're going to talk about, there's three big things here. We've talked about cervical mucus. The next thing we're going to talk about is vaginal discharge. And finally, we're going to talk about arousal fluid. And these are the three predominant types of fluids that we will notice in our undies or we will feel. Now, we've just spoke about cervical mucus, so it will change in texture, it will change in sensation and feeling throughout our cycle, and it is hormone related. So it is going to fluctuate depending on our hormones. Now, vaginal discharge, it comes from your vaginal walls and it's part of your body's cleansing system. So it is usually clear or white. It's not usually stretchy. It is not tied to ovulation. It can come at any time. It can come from wearing undies for too long, wearing tight clothes, staying in your swimmers. Those kinds of things can impact what you're interpreting as cervical mucus because it's actually vaginal discharge. So this is why it's important. More is better when it comes to charting, and also to be tuning into your lifestyle factors and seeing exactly what is going on when it comes to that. So there's a lot of habits like wearing a tight G-string all day on top of wearing tights that you've trained in this morning and you're wearing them all day. Like that is not a healthy environment for your vagina to breathe. So as a result, that is probably going to create some sort of cloudy and misjudged cervical mucus reading. Now, the third thing to have a look at is arousal fluid. And this is why on your cycle tracker, it's really important to note when you have sex, whether that's self-pleasure, any form of sex, because when you are aroused, you produce arousal fluid. And it is that feeling of being wet. Yeah, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this is produced from different glands and it is wet and slippery. It's non-fertile, but it can resemble fertile mucus. Now, the way to tell this is it is only around the time of sex. If you have sex and you get arousal fluid maybe 1 hour after, it will dissipate, which means it will not last. It may be there for an hour. So if you're noticing this on your tracker, you would just write sex and you would just say like wet for 1 hour after sex, or didn't notice any changes in my cervical mucus. Because it can get a little bit confusing sometimes when you're thinking, hey, like I did have sex this morning and now I'm noticing I'm wet, but it just lasted an hour. Whereas cervical mucus, it sticks around. It doesn't just disappear like what arousal fluid does. So this is why, once again, it can take up to 3 cycles to just start to identify your own patterns before we can then make any conclusions about your cervical mucus.